Juneteenth, Emancipation Day, what it meant to my ancestors. My name is Audrey Amos-McGehee, and I'm a descendant of slaves. I'm proud to say that because America was built on the backs, blood, sweat, and tears of my ancestors. America, as it exists today, is a capitalist society that became rich by free labor. This is a story of my freedmen ancestors. My great grandfather on my maternal side was Aaron Nunn. Aaron's wife was named Betty. I don't have any information on Betty, but I do know about Aaron. Aaron was a slave blacksmith on the Wilson farm near Brenham. After emancipation, Aaron stayed on with his former master, Tom Nunn, and continued to run his blacksmith shop. People from all around came to have Aaron shout their horses and fix their plows. Aaron was allowed to pocket a portion of their payments. He made additional money by hauling charcoal to Brenham and selling it for 15 cents a bushel. And he also made money by the manufacture of shuck mattresses, tweenware trays, and a variety of split cottonwood baskets. Years of hard work and savings, Aaron and his three brothers, George, James, and Will, purchased 200 acres of land in the 1880s and founded the freedmen colony of Nunnsville. Nunnsville was southeast of Farm Road 141 and 11 miles from Giddings in Lee County. It was a predominantly Black farming community. Aaron reestablished his blacksmith business. James and Will became farmers. George operated the Nunnsville Post Office, which opened in 1892, as well as a store and a livestock business. The Nunnsville Post Office served the Lee County community and also the communities of Salem, Sweet Home, Shiloh, Colvin, and Antioch. And some of those communities were also freedmen colonies, just like Nunnsville. In 1905, the Nunnsville Post Office was closed. No buildings remain at the Nunnsville site as of 1990. Nunnsville will not appear on many maps because it was not incorporated. My great-great-grandparents, Aaron and Betty, had 8 children: Washington, James, William, Aaron Jr., Narcissa, Sally, Samuel, and John. John is my great-great-grandfather. John was born in 1852. He married Henrietta Nemore. Henrietta was born in 1859. They had 10 children: John Jr., Daniel, Arthur, Equin, James, Bertha, Willie Ann, Annie, Elizabeth, and Ida. Ida is my great-grandmother. Ida married Frank Davis. I currently don't have any information about Frank's ancestry, other than he was a child of the master and looked white. His mother, like him, was a child fathered by her previous master Ida and Frank had 8 children: Alma, Willie, Jesse, John, Vera, Myrtle, Burnett, and Henrietta. Henrietta was my grandmother. Henrietta married Johnny Amos. They had 1 child, my mother, Willie B. Jack Amos, a young slave, was given to the sons of William Waller Sr. in April 1829. The 2 sons later sold Jack to satisfy a debt on August 10th, 1842, to George Stubblefield. Jack married Mary, I don't have any information on Mary, in 1870. The census records state they were farm laborers in Washington County. Jack and Mary had 4 children: Willie, Joe, John, and Kate. Jack later married Ella, and they had 10 children: Mally, Henrietta, Addie, Bertha, Ollie, Maggie, Dolly, Myrtle, and Johnny. Jack Amos is the father of Johnny. Johnny is my grandfather. It's real interesting that the Nunn family and the Amos family, and probably many other families, seem to use the same names over and over and over again. I was born and raised in Taylor, Texas, Williamson County. Dr. James L. Dickey delivered me at the Dickey Clinic. I'm 60 plus years old, was born during the Jim Crow era. Separate but not equal existed. I remember the colored water fountains and bathrooms, and usually they didn't work. If eating at an establishment on the white part of town, if they did not have separate dining rooms, then we had to go to the back door and order and pay for our food. The schools were segregated until 1966. Oral Price High School and Elementary was our school. It closed around 1968. As in most segregated schools, the Black schools got the old used books and the old, very worn desks. However, Oral Price was an excellent school because our teachers cared about us. When our school was closed and we were integrated into the white schools, Taylor High, Taylor Junior High, and the various elementary schools, only about 6 of our teachers were hired by the Taylor Independent School District. We were not welcomed, but if you could play a sport, definitely football, you were treated a little better. We no longer had teachers, except for a few, that cared about our education. There typically were 2 to 3 of us in each classroom. My first day at Taylor Junior High, a white boy ran into me in the hallway and said, "Get out of my way, nigger." I tried to knock his head off. Good thing a teacher didn't see me, or I would have been expelled for the rest of the year. And there wasn't another school to go to. That happened to us a lot. The segregation had its good and bad consequences. For us, we lost a part of our identity. That nurturing we got from our Black educators was no longer there. If you didn't play a sport, as I said above, there was no need for us. Fortunately for me, I was raised knowing my worth. And despite the times, I should still work to achieve my dreams. That's what my parents taught me. The Black students would not try out for various activities because they felt we would not get or win what we wanted to participate in, which was true for the most part. I ran for cheerleader, which I would have been the first Black cheerleader Taylor High had. All during the day, as the voting went on, I consistently was taken through runoff after runoff. I didn't win, and one of the senior cheerleaders told me that the other senior cheerleaders were throwing my votes away. Of course, there was no recourse. The principal told me he would be happy to have me as a cheerleader as much as their girls. Imagine that. I was a real pain in their sides. When I learned that I had rights, well, let's just say I let them know it too. I would still go on to participate in other activities. I was a reporter on the Cotton Bowl, the school newspaper. I played on the volleyball team, and I participated in one-act play, a UIL competition. I moved away from Taylor in 1978. I would not and could not raise my children in that environment. In the early 1970s, while America was trying to figure out affirmative action, there was this ratio of how many African Americans a business should have to be politically correct. The ratio was 2 to 50. 2 Blacks for every 50 whites. The Black men working in the parking garage didn't count. There was only one position open the day I went to interview for the job as a proof machine operator. There were only Black women being interviewed. Most of us had completed some type of secretarial school. I think there were about 20 of us. Really, the only skill you needed was to know how to operate a 10-key machine. That day, I was not looking my best. I think there were about 20 of us. Really, the only skill you needed was to operate a 10-key machine. That day, I noticed they were only interviewing African American women. I didn't look my best that day, and I probably got to my interview late. I remember I ran out of gas. I was coming from a factory job and was dressed accordingly. I was sweaty because my Pinto did not have air conditioning. My school had called me and told me to go right away to this interview. So off I went. I mean, a bank job in 1973 for a Black person. Well, that was pretty good. The interview was short. There were no skills tests. I was chosen for the job. That day still replays in my mind. My clothes did not meet the dress code, no skills tests. Why me? As much as I wanted the job, why me? It makes me sad that I didn't get the job because I was the most qualified. I got the job because my complexion was lighter, not a lot, but some, and my hair was long and straightened. One day after work, I learned my cousin had died and his funeral was the next day, which was June 19th, 1975. I called into work saying I was going to his funeral. On the 20th, when I returned to work, there were little giggles and stuff like that, but I didn't think much of it. As I was leaving for the day, one of my coworkers told me I should know what was said about me not being at work on the 19th. 3 of my coworkers and I had become friends. I was told that 2 of them not only did not stand up for me, but also laughed at some of the jokes. I was angry. I was hurt. I was told that one of the female staff members, who was a real country bumpkin, said, "She's probably all celebrating All Niggers Day." The laughter and the jokes started then. Some of them had never heard of Juneteenth, and the ones that had heard of Juneteenth, but they'd never heard it described as All Niggers Day. The group of people I worked with was about 15 people. I immediately confronted my 2 friends. The 3rd friend was extremely angry with them too. The next day, I went to the manager's office, very upset, of course. He said, "I can't let you go out there and cuss everybody out. Tell me the ones you want and I'll call them in." I told them and he called them in. Well, the apologies and the tears started to flow. I wasn't feeling it. I let it be known I wasn't feeling it. After I finished my talk and they left, my boss started laughing and said, "Well, were you?" My sons had curfews until they were 18. Curfew was 12 a.m. See, I wanted them off the roads before 2 when the bars closed, because that's when the drunks were on the road. As I was sitting at a light that was four-way direction of traffic, my son Audrey was coming home from the other direction and trying to get home before curfew. I immediately saw the DPS trooper turn on his lights. I turned and pulled over on the opposite side of the street because I wanted to see what was happening to my son. The trooper told me, "Don't get out of your car." Audrey went to lean back on his car, and the trooper drew his gun. I was screaming, "He doesn't have a weapon. He's no threat. Please don't shoot my son. Audrey, don't move." I had given my sons the talk. Thank God we lived. I've shared with you a very small part of my experiences with racism. Of course, I get angry when I relive the traumas of racism. I had to open my mind and heart in order to grow and not be angry and untrusting of white people. My husband is white. Jim jokes that he's paying reparations. I say, yep. We married in 2001. We still got dirty looks. To this day, sometimes restaurants will ask us separate checks. Jim gets terribly angry and tells them I'm his wife. I've been in line to check out, and the cashier has asked him if they could help him. His blood pressure goes over the top. The most heartbreaking part of it is that my wedding present sons, Jim's birth sons, in recent years spoke about the stares and rude comments they experienced because of me. I am angry with America and not apologizing for it. This is not the America my grandchildren are going to be subjected to. Nope, not ain't happening. As long as I have breath in my body, I'm going to stand and fight. A change is going to come one way or another. Two quotes I love by James Baldwin. To be Black and conscious in America is to be in a constant state of rage. I love America more than any other country in this world. And exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually. Thank you for listening to my stories. Cut. 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 Uh-oh.